September 30th, 1990. Rich Stadium for an AFC game between the Buffalo Bills and the Denver Broncos. Both of these teams made it to the postseason the year before, with the Broncos representing the AFC at Super Bowl 24. Both of these teams are off to pretty good starts this season, as they're both sitting at 2-1 through 3 games. And it's the much anticipated matchup between two of the best quarterbacks in the game, with John Elway and Jim Kelly going at it. Both of these quarterbacks would wind up in the Hall of Fame when all is said and done. But on this day in 1990, through 3 quarters, it was all Denver. Denver led it 21-9 through 3 quarters, and they had the ball to start off the 4th. They were doing everything that they needed to, driving it down the field, taking time off the clock, and setting themselves up to put this game out of reach. Now, with about 11 minutes left in the game, the Broncos had the ball inside Buffalo's 10-yard line, facing a 3rd and 3 situation. John Elway takes the snap, and it's a design quarterback draw. And early on, it looks like there's a hole up the middle for Elway to get the first down and drain some more clock. But then, number 96 on Buffalo sheds his blocker and is able to force Elway to the outside. That's Leon Seals, who got drafted by the Bills in the 4th round in 1987 and is now in his 4th season in the league. Seals would start every game for the Bills that season on the defensive line, and though this play doesn't show up in the stat sheet, it's arguably one of the biggest plays of his NFL career. If Seals doesn't shed his block, that's an easy first down for Elway. But Seals is able to force Elway to the outside, slowing him down, where the Bills then made the tackle and stop him short of the sticks to force a 4th down. What's about to transpire because of this play is nothing short of remarkable. Because what's about to happen now is the craziest 77 seconds in NFL history. Now, before I talk about these 77 seconds, we need some perspective going into this on just how absurd this situation is. The first season with the 2-point conversion in the NFL was 1994. So at the time of this game in 1990, the 2-point conversion did not exist. If Denver successfully made this chip shot field goal from 24 yards out, it's a 15-point lead, and under the rules of 1990, it's a 3-possession game. And that's absolutely huge. At that point, the Broncos, who had been around for over 30 years, had never blown a 3-possession lead in the 4th quarter in franchise history. I looked at every game in NFL and AFL history. For this, a 3-possession game is defined as any NFL game where one team is up by 15 or more points, or any AFL game where one team is up by 17 or more points, since the AFL had the 2-point conversion throughout its 10-year history in the 1960s. The NFL had been around for 70 years at this point, and I could only find 21 instances of a team having a 3-possession lead in the 4th quarter and then proceeding to blow it. Here's a look at every single one of them, all 21, including a game between the Buccaneers and the Cardinals in 1987, where the Buccaneers blew a 28-3 lead. I guess it's a requirement to be a part of today's NFC South. So if Denver made this field goal to extend their lead to 15 points against Buffalo, it would be a near insurmountable deficit for Buffalo to come back from. And keep in mind that the stat I just mentioned doesn't factor in the time remaining when the lead was blown. It wasn't just a 4th quarter lead by 3 possessions. This would have been a 4th quarter lead with 10 minutes left in the game. Buffalo would have had to play a flawless game at that point and then some to come back. And it's safe to assume that this field goal from 24 yards out was a guarantee. Broncos kicker David Treadwell was one of the best kickers in football at the time. Heading into this attempt, he had made 28 out of 30 field goals inside of 40 yards. The previous year, in 1989, Treadwell was named a Pro Bowler after hitting over 81% of his kicks, which was the 4th best percentage in the league. Pro Football Weekly and UPI named him a first-team All-Pro as well. And in Week 1 during the 1990 season, he had a 24-yard field goal attempt against the Raiders. While I couldn't find any footage of the kick, he made it. So as things stood, the Broncos had a 99.5% chance of winning this game. Make the field goal, and it goes up to a 99.9% chance. So the scene has been set. We've got a lead that's almost insurmountable, a field goal attempt by a kicker who is practically automatic and is one of the best in the league, and we've got a situation where, due to the score of the game and the time left on the clock, a win is all but guaranteed. Keep all of that in mind when I show you what's about to happen over these next 77 seconds.
Treadwell has it blocked. Cornelius Bennett, he can run. Cornelius Bennett in a live ball is going to go the distance for the Bills. So the defense will score a touchdown as Cornelius Bennett takes it all the way.
Well, that's quite the momentum shift. Almost guaranteed to be a 3-possession game with 10 minutes left. And just like that, Denver's lead was cut to 7 points. Nate Adomes, who would go on and become a 2-time Pro Bowler, blocked the kick. And Cornelius Bennett, who would become a 5-time Pro Bowler, ran it back for the touchdown. I think my favorite part about this play is number 8 on the Broncos. That's Gary Kubiak, the backup quarterback and the holder on this play. At least he tried to make the tackle, but that's one of the worst tackle attempts I've ever seen. He was nowhere near Bennett on the play. So now there's still about 10 minutes left, and Denver still has the lead, even if Buffalo has some life in them now. Denver's win probability with that one play dropped from 99.5% to 82.3%, but they're still in a pretty good spot. First down run, nothing doing. Stuffed at the line. Second down, and madness ensues.
Making it tough on Elway and the Bronco offense. Denver leads 21-16. Timing throw. Elway tipped ball. Intercepted. The ball's picked off by Leonard Smith. He's going to go in, and Buffalo takes the lead.
Buffalo's got the lead. A blocked field goal and a pick six later, and Buffalo has now taken the lead for the first time today. That's Leon Seals who tipped the pass, and Leonard Smith who got the pick. For Smith, this was the second pick six of his career, as he had one back in 1984 as a member of the St. Louis Cardinals. 9.5 minutes left, and Denver's win probability in the span of a minute has dropped from 99.5% to 36.5%. A botched kickoff and a penalty later, and Denver's got the ball at their own 5-yard line. But before we continue with the madness, want to see one of the worst rules in the history of the NFL in action? Because in 1990, in what many people call the No Fun League, not even the fans were allowed to have fun.
A blocked field goal. Elway unable to call signals, looking to the referee for relief.
Yeah, now wait a minute. Now Buffalo's here is encouraging the fans to do that, and that's not smart because they'll stop the 45-second clock, and Denver can stand there forever. The defense can't encourage the crowd. Now Shane Conlon is telling them to quiet down. That's going to help a bunch, isn't it?
Yeah,
right.
They get the message.
Yes.
Has been requested to assist in quieting the crowd. We appreciate your cooperation.
Referee Bob McElwee asked the crowd to quiet down. They were about to erupt on the very next play.
Not be a factor.
Probably to Humphrey. He's the lone setback in the ace backfield, the ace alignment. Fumble. Elway got it.
No,
Buffalo has it.
Bennett.
Fumble recovered by Buffalo. And then, to top it all off, with Buffalo on the 2-yard line, Kenneth Davis punched it in to give the Bills a 29-21 lead. With 10:27 left in the game, the Bills were down 21-9. With 9:10 left, they were now up 29-21. Their win probability, according to Pro Football Reference's calculator, was roughly 6%. But that's under the current formula where an 8-point game is still one possession. In reality, Denver's win probability at this point was probably along the lines of 4 or 5%. In a matter of 77 seconds, the Bills went from out of it to completely in control, and Buffalo ended up winning it by a final score of 29-28. After the game, Buffalo defensive end Leon Seals said that he's never seen anything like that before. Denver offensive guard Doug Whittle said he was in shock. And John Elway said that the team felt pretty good about the situation heading into the field goal. And then the roof caved in. Turns out, this game would kickstart Buffalo's incredible 1990 campaign, and it would send Denver into a tailspin. The Broncos entered this game against the Bills with a record of 2-1. Over the next 10 games, they would go 1-9. Meanwhile, Buffalo wouldn't lose another game until November 26th against the Houston Oilers, as they finished the season with a 13-3 record and made it to their first ever Super Bowl when they advanced to Super Bowl 25. The following season, the Bills and the Broncos would meet up in the AFC Championship to determine who would go on to Minnesota for Super Bowl 26. And in the lead up to that game, Denver head coach Dan Reeves said that the team still hadn't forgotten what happened on that fateful day in 1990. It's the most remarkable 77-second stretch in NFL history. Buffalo was down 21-9 with the Broncos lining up for a field goal. On the ensuing 5 plays from scrimmage, the Bills would score 3 touchdowns, would force 2 turnovers, and would get a blocked field goal. All on 5 plays from scrimmage. Oh, and the referee had to tell the crowd to be quiet in the middle of all of that. The best play for Denver in that 5-play stretch was a run that went for 0 yards. When that's the case, then that says everything you need to know about what Buffalo just did.